Good morning, doorknobs. Today is May 13th, 2020, and we're still going strong. I saw there were about 45 or 50 of you that watched my video yesterday. I really appreciate it. World War One's fascinating, so I really appreciate that. Um, Watch today or not, whatever. And I did get one request that I teach a little bit of Vietnam. So I'll do one more video for Thursday. Um, an intro to Vietnam, maybe the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how, and I'll try to keep it short. It's a fascinating topic also. I love all of this stuff. So I'll keep teaching. I know some of you are done and checked out and finished, and that's okay. Some of you are still missing some work, maybe need to take a test, get that stuff done. You have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to catch that up. Today, I do want to continue on with World War One just briefly, and then again, like I said, tomorrow, a short lesson in Vietnam, unless there's something specific that you want me to talk about with Vietnam. And I promise I'll keep it relatively short. So, poisonous gas and some strange weapons of World War One. Not really strange to us, but strange for the time period. So, catch up if you're behind. Get her done as quickly as you can. Okay, so we finished off. We were talking about trench foot yesterday and life in the trenches and rats and how offspring of rats would reproduce and millions of rats in the trenches and eating corpses and gross stuff. And we got to this slide, and I said we'll get to it today. But one of the new technologies that comes out of the war were a lot of experimentation with poisonous gases. And there were really three different types of gases. I'm not sure if I pronounced this right, but the first one's a lacrimator. That's a tearing agent. The purpose of a tearing agent is to make it so you can't see. So, a tear gas, for instance, you might watch on television if there's an unruly mob of protesters and the police have to go in and break it up. They'll fire canisters of tear gas. It's sort of like when I chop an onion. I don't know if I'm just extra sensitive or what, but I start crying, I start coughing, I start hacking, I tear up, my eyes swell up, I can't see anything. If an enemy can't see you, they can't kill you. So the idea isn't necessarily to destroy or kill, it's to immobilize, at least temporarily. Some of you maybe will carry with you a canister of pepper spray when you grow older. Girls will keep it in their purse maybe, and if somebody jumps out of an alley and attacks, shoot them in the face with pepper spray, which is capsaicin from peppers, and they'll tear up, they'll be blind, they won't be able to continue attacking. An asphyxiant makes it difficult to breathe. So if they can't breathe, they can't chase you down. Uh, and in some instances, these things go together. Another one, probably the most common and scariest of all of them, was a blistering agent. Most common blistering agent was called mustard gas. I don't know why it was called mustard gas. I believe it was odorless and colorless. Maybe it had a scent of mustard. I don't really know for sure. But mustard gas would blister any area of the body that came in contact with it that had moisture. So think about the areas of your body that have moisture. You know, your armpits, your feet, uh, places where you sweat, the area around your mouth, area around your nose, your eye sockets. And that's why when you see these people wearing face masks or gas masks, by the way, is that not creepy? Unfortunately, we're not in class, but I have one that looks kind of similar to this, and it just is creepy. And these aren't people, these are dogs, war dogs that are wearing gas masks. So this becomes a common theme in World War One. I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but the tank is a British invention, Great Britain. Uh, uh, I think it was called a Mark One tank, Mark One World War One tank. Could travel at a whopping 3 miles per hour, and it could only go like, I'm making this up because I didn't do the research today for this, but it could only go like 8 miles without refueling. So they weren't really all that effective, but they had a psychological impact, and they were also really good at trench warfare because they could go blasting through no man's land without fear of getting killed. And when you see this hulking, gigantic, noise-making beast spitting in some instances flames, in some instances bullets, that had a pretty big psychological effect on the Germans that were in their trenches. Aircraft, if you're really interested in World War I aircraft, The best ace of World War I was a German pilot. His name was the Red Baron. The Red Baron flew a red aircraft, a German aircraft. That's why they called him the Red Baron. He was actually, look this up if you want to do a little more research on it, because it's a great story. But he was actually a son of a nobleman, so he was wealthy. Um, and he decided, he was in the war and he was bored, so he decided he wanted to learn how to fly airplanes. Didn't know how to fly before the war broke out, but he loved to hunt, he loved adventure. So he and his two brothers, so you've got the Red Baron, his real name was Manfred. I'm on aircraft here. His brothers were Lothar and Balco. And again, I don't have the research to give you too much information, but they had been traveled around the world, all three of them hunting. They kept exact records of the things that they had killed on hunting expeditions, and something like 6,000 of them. And but Manfred, Lothar, and Balco were all really good pilots, and unfortunately, they were German. Um, and if we continue on to World War I, or I spent more time, we'd talk about this. The machine gun, yeah, it existed prior to this. We talked about in the Civil War, the machine gun, both sides had access to them, but neither would use them out of fear of using up too much ammunition. A U boat is a submarine. So we know they're not new because we know that the CSS Hunley existed and did have some success, but German U-boats in particular were super effective. They sank over 10 million tons of Allied ships. U-boat stands for Unterseeboot. I'm not very good at German. Um, so they're very effective, and they'd hunt in packs. And there really wasn't any way for surface ships to do much about it. They would use what's called a depth charge and drop it in the water and hope to hit something. But U-boats were very effective, because if there was one, there was probably six others right in the same area. And if you had a ship, you're probably going to get sunk. And that's one of the things that ends up pulling the United States out of that middle area, out of neutrality, onto the side of the Allies, because it was, in some instances, American ships that were being destroyed. So, again, lots of stories about U boat attacks, one in particular on a British passenger liner called the Lusitania, where 128 Americans were killed. So, there are stories that I could go into on each one of these things, but unfortunately, the time doesn't permit. If I want to keep the video down to 15 minutes or less, because I really want some of you to watch this. This more poisonous gas attacks, so gas masks. This is an Allied soldier. He might be British, he might be American. Again, they put them on their dogs. These are German soldiers wearing gas masks, and you see different styles. This gas mask obviously wouldn't do you very much good with a blistering agent because it leaves your skin exposed, but you don't breathe it. So you're not gonna breathe in. If you breathed in a blistering agent like mustard gas, the death was long and horrible and painful, several days, and you would blister in your lungs because there's moisture inside your lungs, obviously. So you'd blister, and the swelling would fill your lungs with fluid, and you would basically drown in your own fluids. So the idea was, don't breathe it in. There was a way, if you did not have a gas mask and there was a gas attack, and people are screaming and you're freaking out and you forgot your gas mask, there was one thing that you could do. Most of the gases were neutralized by a simple chemical compound called ammonia. And ammonia is probably one of the easiest chemicals to get your hands on that would neutralize the effects of the gas. Human urine has a high concentration of ammonia. So if there's a gas attack that's imminent and you cannot find your gas mask, you pull off a sock or grab an extra sock, you pee all over it and stick it on your face. Yeah. Well, that's a lot better than being dead. But I always think about this. If I'm nervous and I'm like, oh, I gotta pee right now, I need some ammonia, would you be able to? I don't know. So I might have to borrow some from a buddy, or I don't know how you do it. But anyway, this is the form some of the gas attacks would take. It's really difficult to see in this picture, but you have soldiers back here, and all of these where the smoke or the gas is coming out of are small canisters, like the canister at the flower shop where they blow up the balloons, like the helium canister or those big green oxygen tanks that you've seen. All they do is they come up and they unscrew and they release the valve, and the gas floats across the battlefield in an ominous looking attack. What's the problem with this? Pause time while you think it out and maybe answer to yourself. In this instance, the wind is blowing from right to left. But what happens if the wind shifts and blows from left to right? What did you just do to your army? Yes, you gassed them. Here's a Frenchman. The vapor settled on the ground like a swamp mist and drifted toward the French trenches on a brisk wind. Its effect on the French was a violent nausea and faintness, followed by an utter collapse. It is believed that the Germans who charged in behind the vapor met no resistance at all, the French at the front being virtually paralyzed. That was a gas attack at Langemarck in 1915. More men. Here you see a guy with no gas mask, and you see the gas floating in the air. By the way, some of these gases, like mustard gas, had an oily film to it, and it was heavier than air. So over a distance, it would settle on the ground or in trenches or in foxholes, which would be like shell holes or craters where shells had exploded. So you could be running along in no man's land, getting shot at, jump down into a shell hole or a crater, thinking that it was safe, and in reality, that area may have been gassed days earlier, and you stirred up the gas and you gassed yourself. Or you might even just be marching along in the dirt, and as you're marching, you're kicking up the dust particles that are covered with mustard gas, and you gas yourself. So this is scary, creepy stuff. You imagine running along in this cloud of gas, not knowing, first of all, what kind of gas is it? What's it going to do to you? Is your gas mask going to work? Is it going to protect your skin? Are you going to run into something? Is the enemy coming? Oh my gosh, fear. Now, if you look at this picture, what are these men doing? Well, they're not doing some sort of weirdo TikTok dance. They're blind, probably temporarily blinded from a gas attack, so they're holding on to each other's shoulders so they can get where they're going. Now, during World War II, poisonous gas was outlawed. Even the Nazis would not use poisonous gas, except in gas chambers as a very lethal, efficient way of killing massive numbers of people in a short amount of time. But Adolf Hitler had been gassed during World War I. Hitler was a soldier during World War I, a low-ranking soldier, acted as a courier, which meant he would carry papers from one general to another general. And they said that the guy had like a fearless attitude. He would charge through enemy lines, charge through no man's land, do whatever it took. At one point he was wounded. At one point he was gassed. And there's a lot of stories about Hitler in World War I. Adolf Hitler wasn't German. He was Austrian. But when he was drafted into the Austrian army, he ran away to Germany. This is World War I, not World War II. They went to Germany and found him, brought him back to Austria, put him through a physical examination, and they said Adolf Hitler was too big of a weenie. He didn't meet their physical requirements, so they let him go. As soon as he got out of Austria, he ran off to Germany and joined the German army. So he kind of became a German as a result of World War I for his own reasons. Look at this guy. Again, mustard gas. The area around your neck may be a little sweaty. The area around your mouth and your face always have some moisture. Armpits, your wrist areas, if you're wearing sleeves, moist areas attacked by the gas. And those are some gigantic blood blisters. This guy is probably in horrible, excruciating pain. Here's a World War I tank. Here we go. This gives me the statistic. 4 miles an hour, a range of 22 miles. An M1A1 Abrams tank in today's military, the government will tell us, by the way, the tanks today use a jet engine, so don't stand behind one. The government will tell us it'll travel 50 miles an hour. So if they're telling us it'll go 50, it'll probably go 55 or 60. and much more efficient. Notice there's no turret on this thing. It has a wheel for balance, and it could also use this wheel to rotate up and over the top to fill in a trench so they could drive over it almost like a bridge. So big, nasty machine. And biplane, this is what the Red Baron flew. Here's the Red Baron with 80 plus kills. The top American ace was a guy named Eddie Rickenbacker. He had 26 kills. Why is he so many fewer than the Red Baron? Well, because Rickenbacker didn't get into the war until near the end. Some good movies if you like this idea. I'm trying to think. There's a World War I fighter pilot movie, but I can't remember what it's called. And then we're not going to get to this point, but we start to get into the section here where what starts to happen that pulls America out of neutrality and into war. Some of it has to do with the Lusitania in 1915, unrestricted submarine warfare. So Germans just start sinking Allied ships or merchant ships, regardless. The Zimmermann Telegram, which was an attempt at the Germans to get Mexico to join World War I against the United States, was intercepted by a British spy. And then Russia gets out of the war at about the same time as we get in. So the whole section 1 should give you a sort of an introduction to what World War I looked like, scary, creepy, bad. So I'll come back tomorrow. I'll give you a short video on an introduction to the Vietnam War, give you a little bit of a taste of what the 60s and 70s looked like. So for some of you that could potentially be grandparents, maybe fought in the Vietnam War. So if you have grandparents that fought in the Vietnam War and they'll talk to you and tell you stories, maybe I'll give you a little bit that you can talk to them about or ask them about. You guys have a great day. We're running short on days. Enjoy it, and then summer break, and then boom, 9th grade will be